My name's Zack Bedingfield. I do marketing here at KonstructIQ, and I've got together our chief product officer, our head of partnerships, and our head of sales to talk about AI estimating and AI in construction. I don't know. Do you guys want to give an intro for yourselves?
Hey everyone, I'm Joy Ghanekar. I'm lead product at KonstructIQ. Kind of been in, I would say, fintech, B2B, SaaS for over a decade. I love small business. I love the intersection of kind of payments and small business and finance. KonstructIQ was kind of founded with this vision of helping general contractors streamline their projects. I hate the word streamline, by the way, but really get financial independence. And I think with AI and with the intersection of AI and fintech, I think this is a really powerful mission. So that's kind of what I joined. I did a bunch of roles in consumer before that, and I was in engineering a long time ago.
Hey everyone, Mickey Pike, head of partnerships for ConstructIQ. I've spent the better part of a decade in construction tech, specifically technology focused on the SMB residential contractor, the kind of new home builder remodeler space. A pretty deep knowledge base of running a contracting business and all the pitfalls included, and how software can augment those things and improve those things and provide a ton of value so that builders can focus on what they do best, which is building and not being stuck in the back office running their businesses.
Thanks, Zach. It's a pleasure to be here. My name's Mitch. I'm the head of sales at ConstructIQ. Very similar to Mickey, spent the better half of the last decade in construction tech. My expertise lies heavily within the sales of construction tech, but I've also ran a flipping business myself for a couple of years. So, I've got experience not just selling the software, but building homes as well.
Joy, I guess this is a broader question. I know that we're building out AI estimating features, and the AI estimating as a whole will continue to kind of have a rise within the software space for builders. And daily logs also exist as AI functionality. What do you kind of see the next area of AI more heavily influencing what like, an existing contractor or builder's workflow? What does that potentially look like in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's still more work to be done around AI estimating. I think we're in the early innings of it. I think one of the things we've learned is that there are so many different types of ways contractors build estimates and so many different ways they price it. Just simple organization of an estimate in terms of how they do it, it's not the same way. I think pricing is an area where we need to, I think there's a lot more work we can do to leverage both historical pricing that AI has, but also leverage the customer's pricing information. And then if you think about sort of the spectrum of how estimates are built, you can go from a very brief description, which is kind of what we do today. But then there's all these supporting documentation that you can attach to make that estimate more powerful. So plans, 2D plans, or images of a job site. So I think one is just an area of like estimates, there's a lot more work. I think another area is just around back office automation. There's so many manual processes in the back office around paperwork, right? Invoices coming in from subs and vendors. Somebody has to basically go scan them or input that data. I think that can completely be automated. And even to the point where there's just a bill ready to be paid waiting for you. You just have to push a button and kind of hit next. I think kind of if you see the evolution of what's even happening in the space beyond construction, there's kind of a movement towards AI agents. So basically, agents doing work on behalf of you, which I see kind of more as a medium-term opportunity where why is it that I have to come in and use this 20-year-old software interface to input information in when I start using it? Like I have 20 staff members and 20 customers. I should be able to use just my agent to go do that thing for me, or you just use your different modalities, like using voice to go say, hey, send an invoice to this client, or where's my invoice? I sent this invoice last week and it's still not been paid. Can you go follow up on it? So I think it looks, it's kind of giving that back office person superpowers as well as the general contractor superpowers. I can kind of list out 10 more use cases, but kind of that's how I see it evolving.
I was thinking about it yesterday, or one of the main issues I think we'd all agree on as far as issues that contractors and builders are running into is that margins are too thin. You're creating an aggressive bid based off an estimate that is conservative as it can be because you want to beat out other contractors for that particular bid. And then when it comes to you've got making your margin on workers in the field, you've got your back office, you've got materials. It's difficult to be in the black at all times when it comes to these jobs. Some might argue that with the advent of things like AI agents, that it will reduce headcount and subsequently you will see smaller companies able to win larger bids, achieve growth, a bit of a double-edged sword. as far as, hey, fewer potential opportunities for people to be employed by these companies, but more opportunities for those individuals or those small companies to grow.
The common challenge that we see is estimating. It's the biggest challenge we see on most of our phone calls. And, specifically, there are some pitfalls to being this early. If you're not accurate and somebody has an expectation that is very high and they expect accuracy and you don't communicate that on the front end, it can be dangerous. Your reputation can be tarnished pretty quickly if the word gets out that you're not accurate. So a lot of it's just setting expectations with customers and people that have this challenge. This is designed to take out of a chunk of time that you're spending on estimating, because a lot of contractors and especially remodelers spend all week estimating.
Hmm.
It's what they're doing. It's a primary portion of their job. And I think most owners are the estimator as well. They're usually the face of the company. They're usually the person that's in the home doing the estimating. I think that's where AI is going to be leveraged the most, especially for these earlier stage companies that want to grow quickly. It's going to free up time and allow them to work on the business versus so much in it, especially from a sales perspective. So that's where the big challenge is. So first companies that are going to get this right as far as accuracy, not just from a ballpark perspective, but if we can take it to the next level, it's gonna provide an immense amount of value for our customers.
I think one area, maybe Mickey, to you, is you've seen so many companies in this space. Do you see these companies evolving to become all companies that are using AI in some capacity? Estimating software to project management software to lumber and materials as like suppliers. How do you see AI kind of helping them or even just maybe disrupting them?
Sure. I think the first and most impactful application of AI that we've seen so far is in the estimating space. And I think that's for a few reasons. One is I think the cost of estimating from a time perspective on a contractor, turning around estimates, even if you perform the same general type of project over and over and you use some kind of template, it still is a tedious process to estimate. And so because of the nature of estimating, especially as you think about like, using takeoffs, which are generally on a standardized set of plans. And so things like OCR and leveraging AI to read those plans is super interesting. And there's companies, doing interesting things with that. But I think anytime that there is a tedious task, a process that can be digitized, or like streamlining data collection, things like that, AI has like a natural fit for it. And so the early movements have definitely been in the estimating space, but there's also a ton of interesting applications around improving job site safety, decision making and data analysis, quality control, alerting to like flaws in progress, flaws in work that's in progress, or alerting workers to kind of prevent costly mistakes before they happen using like OCR and AI vision tools and things like that. And then I think, there's a cost savings associated with leveraging AI, right? Like saving money by reducing your labor costs, potentially saving, money and material waste by accurately estimating. And so I think the AI will come for the things that are the most tedious, the most time consuming, the most repetitive in nature. And so we're probably a ways off in the residential space, at least before, we have autonomous robots building homes out in the field, but we may be a lot closer to AI augmenting the humans that are currently working within the SMB residential space and making them more efficient and really giving the SMB contractor like leverage, right? Like turning one person into multiple people and able to do several jobs because of the efficiency gains in AI.
So you're thinking like exoskeleton metal suits that are helping them on job sites lift more weight and things like that.
Yeah, or with those like Boston Dynamic autonomous dog robots they're building. Maybe we just strap some lumber on the back of those things and turn them into pack mules. But yeah, there's some interesting stuff going on. Or you think about like what's going on with drones, right? Like drones on job sites, especially in the commercial and heavy civil space. Like there are drones that are scanning the job site using cameras and sensors, monitoring construction progress, capturing data for 3D models that then feeds back to the BIM, inspecting hard to reach areas, like things like that. Like that stuff is really prevalent as you kind of go into the larger project space. And very similar to like BIM, where BIM started out in commercial and heavy civil, and now what we're seeing is simplified solutions for the residential space. Like those things will eventually matriculate down as well.
I mean, I've thought about looking at time tracking specifically within construction, field service work, kind of what you'd mentioned, like some version of workforce analysis. Like if you know that framing typically takes X amount of time, and then over time, this person was supposed to be on framing, and it's taking outside of whatever the statistical significant like norm should be, flagging those things. Like Google Analytics has had some kind of AI assistant for a while of flagging particular changes. 1,000% increase in traffic to your site. Very odd from this particular source. We should be able to surface similar insights just by having all the financial data and performance data.
Yeah, anomaly detection is a big area that I think we can do. I mean, to go back to your point, Mickey, around like how do we, how can AI help kind of automate some of the tedious tasks? Another area is like scheduling, right? You know, a lot of construction companies have just one person dedicated who just builds out schedules and manages schedules. And with AI, you can literally click a button from an estimate and just create a schedule because it has a semantic understanding of everything, right? It knows kind of planning phase, it knows, framing, it knows kind of windows, and it knows kind of approximately how long it can take. It also knows who are the subs that are assigned to those tasks. So it kind of almost can build a detailed project plan, set task assignments, even build a schedule within a few minutes. Of course, there's human assisted aspects to that. But again, I don't look at it as like replacing, but kind of giving that person who's doing their job superpowers. I was on a call yesterday with a customer and I was showing them AI estimating. And I mean, it literally, we take our stuff for granted because, sometimes you get jaded when you build something and you just see it over and over again. But then when you see the customer's face, the first time they see when they went from this crazy small proposal description, unstructured text to a detailed estimate, and you can see that gleam in their eyes, but like, oh my God, I just saved 3 days worth of work. This is like magic to them. So I think, technology is here, but it's kind of unevenly distributed sometimes. And so I think you have to kind of spread that gospel and just, I think people intrinsically get it and they understand kind of how they can help them.
Early on, I appreciated you and Austin diving into using the word automagically more often. I had never heard it before. And speaking with him at length, he was just talking about how his whole objective from a product perspective is to create these magical experiences. So I really appreciate the work that y'all put into really try to, yeah, get that. That's what you're living for, is getting that experience from the customer.
I think the thing that, yeah, we struggle, I wouldn't say struggle with it. The challenge is like, AI is by nature sort of not super deterministic, right? I mean, and so with estimates, to Mickey's point, we want to get to a level of fast, accurate estimates is kind of the motto. And you have to use a combination of AI plus structured information to make it really work effectively. And it cannot be just all AI. You have to kind of tell it, this is the structure it needs to come back in. It needs to come back 9 times out of 10 or 10 times out of 10 the same way. Because I think the moment a customer starts seeing huge variance or starts seeing massive differences in prices, they're going to stop using it because they're like, I don't know if this is reliable enough for me to use yet. So we're trying to strike that balance.
Well, Mitch, you worked as a builder, as a contractor for an amount of time. My broader, like non-informed question is if an estimate is inaccurate or you've essentially like undercut yourself where you haven't estimated the proper amount, so you're actually losing margin, how often are you just eating that cost into your original margin? And how often are you going to the customer later on and saying, hey, I actually need more money for this?
Yeah, I mean, if you estimate poorly on the front end and you're a fixed cost remodeler, you're in trouble. Like you're gonna eat that cost because it's not built into your contract to be able to create a change order and make up for those costs. And so I actually see a massive amount of impact from AI in the barrier to start a business without 30 years of experience or 10 years of experience is not just construction, any business for that matter, but especially for construction. When AI gets to a point that it can build an estimate and that you're going to be profitable on a project, that's where it's going to have the biggest impact because you don't need the experience where, you got these guys that have been doing it for 20 years. It's all in their head. They know the pricing of a 2x4 in their local zip code. So AI is going to really change the game when it gets to that point.
I mean, with that in mind, wouldn't
Maybe there already.
wouldn't the estimate need to take in, so like I know with our current AI estimating, you're going to put in your labor rate, but you're not necessarily putting in your like labor volume. Like, oh, let's say I wanted to start a contracting business tomorrow and I said, hey, I want to build a new house. Obviously, like an overly ambitious project for little old me. But I would put in potential labor rates that I thought would be profitable. I put in potential margins that I thought would be profitable. But I would expect I would kind of need an output as well. That is, you need to hire 6 people, and these 6 people need to potentially be good at these 8 things. Does that sound like a crazy output for a future situation for some kind of in-depth AI estimate, or am I out of depth? Out of my depth, rather.
I mean, the AI estimate does today kind of give you quantities and sort of, so it can estimate hours or it can estimate days to complete a task. Of course, it can estimate sort of, even units of square footage or linear footage. I think, different, depending upon which sub you work with or your own crew, you might have different productivity, right? And everyone has different sort of skill sets. So what might take an experienced electrician maybe a day to complete might take someone who's junior, um, I don't know, 3, 4 days to complete. So, at the end of the day, it's a heuristic. You're going to have to look at that and based on your experience, know what it's going to take. And then there's all the stuff you have to kind of account for, which is like buffer and contingency and all of those things that I think people forget sometimes. But I think the thing about like the beauty of this is that it'll learn over time. So if it looks at your historical data and your past, sort of how you've priced your projects and how you've accounted for hours, it'll use that to kind of give you an estimate that's more in line with your crew.
Thanks, guys, for chatting. I think this was interesting. I love chatting with y'all just about state of the industry, where we think we're going to go moving forward, where it is now. I think it's always exciting, and it's nice to have casual conversations like this.